Welcome to Son of a Glitch. Join us as we explore some of the internet's craziest glitch stories. Story 1. I don't really know what to call this. A glitch, a time slip, or just a weird coincidence, I'm really not sure. I'm from West Yorkshire, UK. I am a 27-year-old woman, and this happened in 2010 when I was 15, and I remember it as if it was yesterday. Here's my story. Me, my mum, grandma, and friend all went to a local coastal town for the day. Somewhere we had been many times before, at least 3 to 4 times a year, because we have got family who live there. Ever since my mum was a child, we have always traveled the same route through the countryside rather than the motorway, because we like to stop off at what we call a halfway house, to grab a sandwich on the way there and a drink on the way back. We always stop at the same places because it's just part of the routine and what we have always done and enjoyed. On this particular day, everything was normal. We had driven to the coast, stopped off for a sandwich. The sun was shining. It was a normal, lovely day. However, on the way back was when it got weird. We set off mid to late afternoon because we wanted to miss all the evening traffic and to make sure my friend got home at a decent time. The journey felt normal. We traveled on the same roads as we always had and was planning to stop off at the usual pub for drink, non-alcoholic. In the space of about 5 to 10 minutes, we noticed the weather had really changed. It had gone from being a glorious warm sunny day to being gray, overcast, and quite cold. We didn't think much of it, and then my mum said, "Oh, I don't know where I am." Confused, we just said she must have taken a wrong turning, but she was adamant that she has been on the same road for the last 8 miles, a road we had traveled countless times. We wondered if the road had been altered since the last time we visited, because now, none of us recognized the road or the surroundings. We looked for familiar landmark that would hopefully guide us in the right direction, but there was nothing but fields for miles. We began to notice that the road we were on was very quiet, and we seemed to be the only car driving along it. Nothing had passed us in what seemed like ages. Me and my friend began to get anxious because of how weird this felt, and we were worried about being lost. My mum calmed us down and told us not to worry, and that the next village we drive through, we will pull over so she can set her sat-nav up. In 2010, phones didn't really have maps or anything yet, not like we do today anyway. About 10 minutes later, we saw a couple of houses in the distance. As we approached, we noticed there was 2 semi-detached houses, a small farmhouse and yard, an old-fashioned level crossing for trains, and a pub. My grandma suggested we pull into the pub so my mum could set up her sat-nav and we could have our halfway house drink while we were there to help calm our nerves. We entered the pub. It was empty except for an old man in a rocking chair in front of a burning fire. He stopped rocking the chair abruptly and stared at us as we walked in, as if in shock. He was wearing brown work trousers with braces, black boots, a cream shirt with a knitted vest, a flat cap, and was smoking a pipe, as if he stepped straight out of 1910. He didn't speak, just stared. We approached the bar. The barmaid/landlady was walking behind the bar and halted in her tracks as soon as she saw us, again as if in shock. We asked if the pub was open due to it being so quiet, and she stuttered, "Oh yes it is, what can I get you?" We all asked for soft drinks, me and my friend being underage at the time, my mum being the driver, etc. The lady scrambled around getting us the drinks, then looked baffled when we tried to pay with bank cards. She used paper and a pencil to add up the cost of our drinks, so we paid with loose change to make it easier for her. To the right of us was a narrow staircase, and down ran a little girl around the age of 7 or 8. She was wearing white tights, brown brogue-like shoes, and a burgundy pinafore-style embroidered dress with a hand-knit cardigan, and her hair was in ringlets. She gasped and also looked surprised to see us and looked between us and the lady behind the bar, presumably her mother. We thanked them and took the drinks outside to one of the wooden tables. The man in the rocking chair began to rock again and watched us intently as we walked out. We sat down outside and with hushed voices spoke about how weird that whole situation was. We noticed how there wasn't anyone else around. No other cars in the car park, no other people in the pub or beer garden, and no people walking the streets near the houses. The place seemed deserted, abnormally quiet, and stuck in time. As we quickly finished the drinks, a man in a van pulled up, got out, got a pickaxe and spade out of the back and looked over to us and said, "Ooh, visitors," and went inside the pub. We got back in the car as quickly as possible and left, and within a matter of minutes we were on a road we all recognized and the sun was shining once again. The whole thing was so bizarre and unbelievable. It's all we could talk about for the rest of the journey home. We were trying to understand the situation. The unrecognizable roads, the old-timey clothes, and the overall feel of the place, and how the people reacted when they saw us, as if we were aliens. So that's my story. The memory of it all is still so clear, and I'll never forget the expressions on their faces. We still talk about it to this day, 12 years later, all our memories so clear. It was possibly the most strangest experiences of my life, and I feel like I wanted to share my story on here to get others' opinions, and if anyone had experienced anything similar. Thanks for reading. Story 2. I was unaware this is what it was called, and that it was a thing, until about a year ago. In the fall of 2018, I was on a solo road trip into Georgia, buying fenders from a man for a truck I was restoring at the time. I had got to my destination, went to leave, and stopped to get gas. Upon entering the gas station, everything was suddenly different. It was an indescribable feeling. Something had changed. I went to pay for my gas, and I noticed behind the counter none of the tobacco products had any warning labels, and they all looked very dated and different. There was no card reader on the counter for credit cards. The prices of things on the racks were 1/3 of what they are today. Designs on the smokeless tobacco cans looked like they were from 1999 or 2000. I noticed all the drinks and sodas in the store also had dated and old labels on them. I asked the woman behind the counter why they were selling outdated tobacco and drinks. She handed me a can and said everything was fresh and not out of date, and the date expired July of 2000. At this point, I could not believe what I was seeing. It freaked me out so bad I left. I drove 20 miles down the road and got gas elsewhere. To this day, I have looked everywhere on Google Maps and cannot locate this gas station. There is simply nothing there. This is the first time I have spoke about what happened since 2018. I stopped telling people about it because people thought I was simply crazy. Story 3. This happened a little over a week ago. At around 7 p.m., we lost power due to a bad thunderstorm. As day turned into night, it was obvious the power wasn't coming back on for a while. I live in the woods and have a good view of the city. Everyone went to bed around 9:30 p.m. as there was nothing else to do. Around 11 p.m., unable to sleep due to the heat, I walked into the hallway and looked at the city lights. While most of the city was dark too, I was hopeful to see some lights come back on. As light in the city meant the power was getting fixed. While standing there, I saw car headlights move across the wall. I looked out the window, but no car was there, nor should there have been one. My driveway has an iron gate across it that only opens if someone has the gate code. Furthermore, I would have seen the car. An hour later, I went back into the hallway to see if it happened again. Around 5 minutes later, the light reappeared, but it didn't move at first. I went downstairs to get a better look, again saw nothing. The light then moved up the wall and was gone. The light looked and acted like headlights do on a moving car. The power came back on 10 a.m. the next day, and I never saw the light again. I didn't know what it was or what caused it. I also live up a hill away from the main road. I cannot see cars on the road from my house, so it wasn't anyone driving on the highway. Story 4. Introduction. I've been involved in esotericism for over 13 years, and I'm quite accustomed to strange things. But I think this story fits this sub. I'm a member of an archery club. We have a uniform, a red polo shirt, size L, with an embroidered logo over the heart, and the club code embroidered on the back and arms. Black pants with a printed logo on the right thigh. When I use these two items, I always wear them together, obviously. Then I wash them, and once dry, I put them away in the closet on the same hanger. One morning, I woke up to attend a demonstration, and the polo shirt had disappeared into thin air. It wasn't on its hanger, it wasn't among the dirty laundry, it wasn't anywhere else. The following week, I asked the club to buy me another one, size M. I've lost weight. I put it away as usual on the same hanger as the pants, and I didn't use it for weeks. One morning I have a competition. I take out my hanger and I find 2 polo shirts, embroidered etc., but both in size L. Story 5. My husband and I moved into a new home last month, and we have both had an item inexplicably disappear from their spot then reappear. A couple weeks ago, we were hanging out outside, and I was wearing sunglasses when the sun started to set, so I put them in the kitchen junk drawer. The next morning, I went to get them from the drawer, and they weren't there. My husband and I looked everywhere. I took every single item out of the kitchen junk drawer and put everything back in. My sunglasses were not in there. The next morning, my husband opened the same drawer and pulled my sunglasses out. I was shocked. My husband swears he did not put my sunglasses in that drawer. He was helping me look for them the day before. And we had no guests over in between me taking everything out of the drawer and then my sunglasses appearing there. The other item is a very specific sweatshirt that my husband loves. It's a discontinued Lululemon sweatshirt that he bought secondhand and only has one of. When we moved last month, he brought it in the U-Haul with him and hadn't remembered seeing it since. I brushed it off and assumed it was somewhere in the house. He had talked almost every day about how he was so bummed he couldn't find his sweatshirt. We both looked all over the house several times. I have watched him go through all of the clothes hanging in the closet multiple times, and I personally have also gone through all of the clothes hanging in the closet, and can attest that it was not hanging in the closet. A few days ago, he calls me into the closet, and with a shocked look on his face says, "Look, it was the sweatshirt just hanging up in the closet." Is our timeline adjusting to being in a new house, in a new state, and a few of our favorite items have jumped dimensions and back? Do we have a friendly yet stylish ghost who borrowed our things? I do have sage that I bought and plan to sage our house with that I just haven't done yet, but now I'm wondering if should hurry up and do that. Would love to hear thoughts. Story 6. I've been in a chronic illness flare lately. It's really been getting me down, which is unlike me. I have also been very fatigued. Last night, I was finally feeling a little bit better. I was sweeping and mopping my downstairs, taking rests in between. My mood was better. It has a completely ordinary evening. My son was on the front porch hanging out with the neighbor kid. I sat down for a little break and my phone dinged. Amazon delivered. UGH, I just sat down, but it's fine, my son is outside. Won't get stolen. Just as I am feeling guilty about not grabbing it, my son comes inside saying, Amazon came, and as I stood up, he walked into the kitchen where I was and handed me the box. It was light. I remember how it felt in my hands. I think about looking for a butter knife to open it with, but I decided it wasn't an emergency, and I should get back to my break. I left the box on the counter and sat back down at my desk. 2 minutes later, my son come down the stairs, asking, "Did my Otter Pops come?" Not wanting to get up, I checked the Amazon website on my laptop in front of me. Then I remember taking the box from his hands. "Oh, no dude, that box was definitely too light for Otter Pops. Let me see if they're out for delivery." I check Amazon, and it says everything I ordered that day has been delivered. "Oh, my bad, they're here, check the front." I tell him he did, and returned with a large bag of Otter Pops. I am feeling energized again, and I start looking for the other box so I can use the allergy eye drops I ordered. It's nowhere. The Otter Pops are on the kitchen counter, so I ask my son where he moved the other box to. "What other box?" I looked everywhere, thinking I must have moved it and forgotten. Nothing. My son is denying he ever said anything about or handed me this box. He also doesn't remember asking if his Otter Pops came just moments before. I go on the still open webpage to show him it's been delivered, and now it says arriving today, not delivered today. The box with those items in it arrived 1 hour later, in much smaller box than the first. I don't even believe in simulation theory. I have been racking my brain, trying to come up with cognitive reasons for this. It is just so normal. Not emotionally charged, not important. Just sheer. Random. This was yesterday at 7:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember looking at the clock when I check Amazon the second time. I always thought these stories were just people dong imaginative sci-fi creative writing, but now I don't know. Could it be from toxin exposure? My neighbor has been burning wood nonstop lately, and it's been really irritating to my eyes. It doesn't bother anyone else. This didn't feel weird though. Nothing at all felt out of the ordinary. That is what made it so unsettling. Story 7. Was out to deliver some packages, sent them and decided to pay the field a little visit. The field is mostly empty with a cobnut bush on one side, a small grove of trees on the other with the remaining 2 sides having a path cutting through that is a decent distance from a single large tree that is placed in the dead middle of the field. Not many people visit the tree as there is tall grass surrounding it. Maybe some dogs run past, so the 1-pound coin should not end up there so frequently if at all. That's the explanation of the field. So I decided to go up to the tree knowing that lots of cool insects live there. I saw one of those rainbow insects that spring flip themselves, which I flipped a few times, then a green-red spider hiding in a hole, and then I checked out the ant colony which were dragging back a dead fly. There are 2 roots with one having the ants living in it, and the other which only has dirt. There was a lightly dusted 1-pound coin from the hard dirt. Considered it lucky. Huffed on it 3 times and put it in my left pocket. Polished tradition / thing you do when you find a coin, and went to check the cobnut bush to see the progress of the nuts. Went back the following day to do some catching in Pokemon Go. Decided to check the tree as it was a pokestop to collect the free items, and saw the £1 coin again in the same place with the same light dusting. Did the same ritual of huffing the coin and putting it in my left pocket. At this point the cobnuts were almost ready, so I was coming more frequently to check and collect them. I decided for the heck of it to check the tree again, and found yet another £1 coin, same light dusting with the same year and wear marks. Decided to play with another few flip beetles before going back home. Now I go there every day, and I have now amassed a jar full of the lightly dusted £1 coins that has a slight lining of dirt at the bottom, which I compared them all which have the same year, and scratch on the top right of the coin. There must be a glitch in the matrix, and I wonder if anyone else has a money glitch location. I probably will use the money on a used bike, and then the extra will go towards buying a new server tape drive to play with and add to my collection. After that it will fund data storage media to add to my wall. Story 8. So I have a second cousin, who has been married to his wife for about 20 years. About 7 years ago, I went to a family reunion that he, his wife, and their 2 daughters were at. At one point I was watching all of the kids, including my own. His daughters' names were Hannah and Haley. I spent time with those girls. I took them fishing. My daughter remembers both of them, because she was the older cousin. About 2 years later, I saw a post on Facebook that they had taken Hannah to Disney World. I was confused because I was like, where is Haley? I have seen and have taken pictures of her. My daughter remembers her. They posted lots of other posts where they were doing stuff with Hannah. So naturally, I asked about Haley, and they both stated that they did not have a daughter named Haley. I remember having a conversation with my cousin's wife about the spelling of their daughter's name. So I went back into my Google Photos to see if I could find pictures of Haley, and she was not there. My daughter had pictures of her in her phone as well, and she was freaked out because they were gone. Like the pictures were still there, but Haley was not in them. No one else in the family remembers her. Even though some of the pictures were of aunts and uncles and cousins with her. It's like somebody photoshopped her out of all the pictures. I am so confused, like what happened to her. How does this child not exist that I remember fishing with? I even asked multiple family members if they knew any child named Haley, because I thought, well, maybe she was somebody else's kid. No one knows who she is, and even my mom states that she does not remember that name. WTH? Edit. To answer some questions. I noticed this about 5 years ago. I did do a deep dive into it. I Googled things and people involved. I found other girls with the same name, but none of them were her. I went through old photos. I was convinced something had happened to her, and no one wanted to talk about it. I asked so many other cousins, uncles, aunts, and Haley's grandparents. My daughter had taken a bunch of selfies with her cousins, as they had camped out a couple of nights in the same tent. She was gone from all the pictures, even the one I had had of her, and my great-aunt of just the 2 of them. My daughter was 14 at the time. My son was 11, and he doesn't remember Haley either. The girl's dad does in fact boil fish. My cousin's wife did have multiple miscarriages after Hannah, and that's why she said they only have the one child. Maybe she was a ghost? Story 9. I have a pretty good memory, much better than average, and that's borne out by objective measures of testing, etc. Exam/law school/bar exam pretty easy. While I am getting older, sucks. So I know I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but when I'm absolutely sure of something it's still a pretty good percentage I'm right. And I'm an attorney, so absolute surety isn't something my brain does normally for much of anything. Anyway, some time ago, linear time is my brain's Achilles heel. At least 6 months plus, and probably more, I noticed I was missing a couple car-related items on a very busy shelf. It was like some Rain-X type stuff, and another box of about the same size. 10 inches tall, 4-ish inches wide, and longer across. Very distinctive-looking boxes. I knew exactly where they were. They're still there now, on the top shelf on the right bookshelf. Except suddenly one day I noticed they were gone. I knew exactly where they were. Didn't touch them, hardly touch those shelves even though they do, I admit, have a lot of stuff. Not enough stuff to obscure where they were though. I talked to my girlfriend, who didn't live wide at the time, and asked her if she knew where they were, and she didn't. I told her what they looked like, and had her look around shelf, and she didn't find them. I looked a bit, and didn't know WTF. Could only assume weird brain fart possibility, and apartment weird robbery. Months later the items were back exactly where I knew they had been. Showed my GF. No clue. Gave up thinking about it. Assumed my brain just really missed it somehow. A block. And that my GF didn't understand my explanation, etc. I also understand reality is weird, but the simplest explanation. Anyway, today, an hour ago, I was making some shitty soup to eat, sorry soup, and was drinking some Wegmans Fiji apple juice, not guerrilla marketing but decent shit. Had just a tiny bit left and put it on the sink, straddling the metal lip of the sink that goes upward and the level space beyond, so it was at a bit of an angle. The tiniest but precarious, so I especially remember where it was. I go to finish it, and it's gone. Just go. I guess I drained it without remembering, no biggie. And I finish my soup and eat most of it, put the rest in a little container, put that in the fridge and put the pot in the sink and fill it with water. No drink on the edge, almost no way for it not to be in my way when doing that with the pot because it's a small area. I go and watch some YouTube and then start new season of It's Always Sunny. Not bad though, I didn't love the crossover. Can't get into Abbott, maybe I'll try again. GF comes home from workout, lives here now, and after a little talk and blah and movement she says something like, "You didn't finish the juice?" It was by the sink on the lip. I didn't see where it was, but she communicated clearly, and we have both left stuff there before. She showed me and the juice was still here, now, with a bit to finish. Put it back in the fridge, didn't finish it, but I am thirsty, damn it. Anyway, this one was way more solid than the last one. Same apartment, maybe 12 feet apart in different rooms separated by the same wall. I find it much harder to believe that I didn't see this juice, knowing where it was, wanting it and looking for it. And then again, somehow, when using the sink. Reality is weird and sadly ape brains are fragile and pathetic. But mine isn't quite average and the percentages are changing for me. Story 10. I feel like I'm going crazy, haha. Can someone tell me if I actually am, be nice? 28M. This all really happened to me, or at least I believe I experienced it. I'm not doing a creative writing thing. Retyping this as my last post was removed for too many stories and was told to pick one. These all feel related to my house, but I'll just post this one since it's driving me crazy. Weird thing that happened number 1. A few weeks ago, I woke up and went looking for my partner to say good morning. His office opens directly into our bedroom and is only accessible from there. Our house is tiny, like 500 square feet, and you can pretty much see every part of it at all times, except for the office. We live in basically what was a converted downstairs of a 2-story house. The only doors are the front door, the back door, and the office door. I opened the office door, he wasn't there. Light off, laptop shut. Empty room. I called his name, nothing. I walked around the whole house, he wasn't anywhere. His car was outside. Both front and back doors were locked. Weird, but I figured maybe he walked down the street to get coffee or something. I also called and texted him, no reply. Maybe he had a lunch meeting ID forgotten about. I made some tea, or maybe coffee. Probably coffee, and went back to lie in bed and doom scroll. 10 minutes later, he walks out of the office. I'm stunned. I tell him what just happened, totally freaked out. He looks at me like I'm nuts and insists he was in there the whole time. But that makes no sense, because I checked. He wasn't there, and he wasn't in the house, period. I would have seen him leave or come back in. He also had the missed calls and texts from me, but didn't hear them come in and missed them all. I still don't have an explanation. Edit. No, my partner isn't sneaking out or abusing me. My carbon monoxide detector works. I don't have mold. There is no way to the upstairs apartment from inside ours, plus people live there. I have a camera for the front door. I was sitting in bed, holding the coffee and texting friends. I have the texts from that morning, and at no point did I appear to fall asleep, plus I would have spilled the coffee. We have a dog and cat that make a lot of noise when they see either of us. And finally, I need to stress how open and tiny our place is. I made a bad drawing of it in the comments below. I don't mean to have a retort to everything, but I've genuinely gone over almost everything over and over in my mind since it happened trying to debunk it, and I really can't. My partner is also enjoying reading theories, but swears he only remembers being in the office all morning. Yes, I believe him. Only taking the dog out around 6 a.m., when this happened around 10:30 to 11 a.m. That's why I posted here, because it really feels like it was a glitch to me. Thanks to anyone who reached out with good suggestions. This is very real to me, and it's not the only thing that's happened to me recently that I can't explain, but it's the first one and the one I can't prove but know happened. Thanks for reading. Story 11. I was in drama class and we had finished our projects for the day and were sitting on the ground chatting. The girls I was sitting with were all close friends of mine, but they weren't exactly jokesters, so this wasn't a weird prank. In the middle of the conversation, one of my friends stands up and goes to the doorway, probably to go to the bathroom. I noticed but didn't say anything 'cause that's her business. As she reaches the door, She suddenly turns around to look at me, and my other friends turns to look at me too. The girl in the door asks me, "What?" I'm confused and I say, "What?" Back. "You just said my name." She told me. I hadn't. I hadn't said anything. I had still been listening to the conversation. So I said I didn't say anything. Then all of my friends around me argue with me, and say they all saw and heard me say her name. I can't stress enough how I did not say anything from my perspective. It wasn't even one of those times you accidentally say the word you're thinking. I was not thinking about her or her name. My mouth was closed. Everybody thought I was weird. They said I said her name weirdly, but didn't elaborate. They shrugged it off and continued the conversation, but I was left frazzled and confused. I haven't talked to any of them in a long time, but this instance still freaks me out. Story 12. Okay, this will sound kinda crazy, but I swear it happened to me. And I have loads of friends that can confirm. When I was 20, I was studying in college abroad. I was living a flat with 3 other people who I did not know well. I used to smoke some joints, not anymore, during college years. At this time, an older woman moved into the apartment, so I did not want anyone complaining about me smoking in my room, so I used to keep it very, very private. One day I rolled a joint, and it just vanished. Like for real, vanished. I was super confused and concerned about it, because if someone else in the flat found it, I would be screwed. So I looked up everything, everywhere, and it was nowhere to be seen. I told all my friends about it, for real. Friends come later into my room for days trying to look it up. Eventually I just called it a lost cause. I was like, there is no way I am ever finding it again. During this week my friends kept asking me if I had any updates, and I was like, nah, it's alright though. But like coming back from a summer job I had later on the week, maybe like 5 or 7 days later, I came home and sit down to roll one. I do so and just go to the bathroom real quick. So I go back in the room and see a joint and pick it up, look at it and state, this is not the one I rolled. I freeze and look behind me. The joint I just rolled was in the other side of the room, while the missing one was there laying perfect on my bedside table. Some notes here. I always locked my door when I left the room. No one expected my friends were able to enter it. So there was no chance at all of someone from the flat finding it and placing it to me. I can confirm that this bedside table I found the joint was looked under, inside and of course on the place I found it later. I am not any type of junkie or drug addicted. I only drink occasionally and don't smoke weed for a couple of years now. But I swear this story is true and still blow me and my friends' heads to this day. Story 13. This has happened twice now. Yesterday morning I woke up, fed my dog, and let him outside. I laid back down in bed, and not 2 minutes later my dog is just there doing his little shake like he just came back inside. I thought it was weird that I had no recollection of getting back out of bed and letting him inside, but whatever. I was tired so didn't think much of it. Then today I let him out and go sit on the couch where I'm doing a craft. I hear him scratch at the door to be let back in, but I wait about 5 seconds to finish up what I'm doing. I stand up to go to the door, but he's already inside? Again, I have no recollection of letting him back in. There is no other way for him to get back in. There's no dog door, and there's no one else home. I'm chalking it up to my short-term memory, and maybe just habit of letting him in / out all the time, but it's still weird. Lived here 2 years and haven't had that happen before. Story 14. I had what I can only describe as a glitch in the matrix. I travel for a living, and one of the territories that I've traveled many times, not to mention the fact that I grew up around this particular area, and I'm well acquainted with the roadways and the surrounding towns. So today I left my home at 10:30 a.m. for a trip that takes me 2 hours and 15 minutes. About halfway through the trip, I started to feel extremely tired, and I was coming up on one of the main towns that I passed through. I thought to myself, I'll just get through this small town, and at the other end are a couple of restaurants where I can stop. I'll get out, go to the bathroom, get something to eat, walk around, and then wake myself up. As I'm sitting there at the top of this hill at this light waiting to turn right, there's some cars ahead of me. The next thing I know I am looking around singing a song on the radio and trying to figure out where I am. I see a sign. I'm about 10 miles from my destination, which means I missed about 25 miles of my trip, straight through town, under bridges, stop lights, stop signs, curvy roads, hills. 25 miles of my trip is missing, and when I got to the client where I was going, I looked at the clock, and it was 2:30. It took me 4 hours to make a 2-hour and 15-minute trip. I do not know where the time went, nor do I know where the miles went. Story 15. This happened to me too in 2018. My husband and I were driving to Los Lunas from Albuquerque, which should take 45 minutes, an hour tops. We stopped once for about 5 minutes and bought a Coke. No one else was in line. Anyway, the map kept saying 15 more minutes for what seemed like forever. But we weren't checking our phones because we were talking, listening to music, and just not paying attention to the time. Anyway, the person we were going to see finally texts and is like, "I thought you said you were on the way? We were supposed to be there by about 1, and it was now 4:30. We have no idea what happened. We didn't turn off anywhere, we didn't stop anywhere else, we didn't get stuck in traffic. And on the way back, it took about 40 minutes exactly. So weird.